Hey, I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute. I have an extremely funny and talented young man named Brian Atkinson with me today. Brian, how are you, my friend?
I have not been introduced as a young man in a very,
Well,
very.
Brian, you look at what you're dealing with here. I got one foot in the grave and the other in the banana peel.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's a perfect way to do that.
You're in Michigan. Let's start there. You're in Michigan,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's a really great central part of the United States. Easy to get to Chicago, easy to get to Detroit,
I've been
Indianapolis,
to
kind of those
Detroit.
Midwest hubs, and an easy airport access when I
Were
need
you
that.
were you born and raised in Michigan?
I was born and raised in the Chicago suburbs,
Okay.
which makes me a lifelong Cubs fan and a Bears fan. So
Okay.
I suffer from DFS, that's displaced fan syndrome. So wherever I go, I've got my Cubs or Bears gear,
Okay. Okay.
and out here, if I want to watch baseball or football, it's Tigers and Lions and no Bears. Oh my.
I I'm actually the Lions surprised me last year. I like
Yeah,
the Lions. I'm
yeah.
happy for the Lions.
Yeah, weird thing. Growing up in Chicago, at some point, my dad brought home a Lions helmet. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and there
Right?
was pictures of me
Right.
wearing this Lions helmet, and I had that probably until I was 10 or 12 years old. And
Yeah.
so I've always had this soft spot in my heart
Yeah.
for the Lions, and it had to be because they were so bad for so
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
That's
but I
true.
was a Cubs fan, so likewise, I was
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
what do I know about
Okay.
winning?
All right.
Um, and then over the last couple of years, they've just done so well. It's been a lot of fun to
Yeah.
to be local here. But I've lived in Michigan most of my adult life, so
Okay.
that soft spot is like, well, I'm gonna root for the Lions unless they're playing the Bears.
Right. Okay. I'm like that. I'm an Eagles fan, and it took a long time for me to get.
Yeah,
I said if I could just get a Super Bowl before I died. Thank God I got it a few
you
years
you
ago.
got it, you sure did. And you're
Okay.
you're from York, is that
Hey,
right?
hey, stop it. Enough about me. We don't, this ain't
No,
about me, brother. I
well,
don't take any questions.
my wife and I met in Philadelphia. She grew up
Okay.
she
All
grew up
right.
there,
Yeah.
so I can hear your Delco uh, from a
Hey,
mile
we're going
away.
to talk about voices. Back or
Yeah.
down, Hot Rod. We're going to talk about voices.
Yeah, you breathe into that microphone. I'll tell you the last time you had Tony Luke's. We'll be all right.
Now, don't start up because we're
Okay.
going to start with clean comedy,
Yeah.
horrible person.
Sure. Yeah. Um,
Now, hang on. Before you answer, does
yeah.
that mean like you do like dad jokes and then push old ladies down the stairs? What is it? What?
I love that description. I'm going to start using it. Uh, no, I only work clean, and it's not like intentionally clean. It's just that's just how I grew up and how I was raised, and
Yeah.
and I don't talk with foul language or particular topics in my regular everyday walking around life. I know all those words. I can come up with the jokes. But it just if I did that on stage, it wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't really be
Yeah.
me. But the other side of that is my comedy leans pretty dark. And so it's that combination of, yeah, it's clean, but I'm a horrible person.
Okay. Okay. Well, just because, again, I like to do a little research before you come on.
Sure,
You
sure.
played a serial killer on TV
For example,
at the same time that you were doing a voiceover doing for PBS Kids. You were doing
yeah,
voiceover work.
same studio, same day. I yeah, I was in Philadelphia and I got cast in a let me sure I get this right. Lifetime movie network movie.
Okay.
That's not the same as a Lifetime movie. They're,
Okay.
like distant cousins. Yeah,
Lifetime Network movie. I got
yeah,
it.
Lifetime movie network movie, and it was one of those true crime reenactment things. And
Okay.
they cast me as one of the serial killers as he got older. And so my favorite scene is the guy who was playing that character as the younger person. He bends down out of frame to do a line of coke,
Right.
and then ice come up, and I'm doing that, and so it
Right.
was the Speed Freak Killers, you can find out about them. There's these two guys who loved doing drugs and killing people.
Yeah.
And so I was in a studio for a couple of days doing that. But in the same studio, in their audio studio, I was recording voices for a PBS Kids, I mean, little kids show, little
Yeah.
character voices and announcer stuff. And so I did everything from a voice like this today on PBS Kids to all the way down to, and now we're going to hear from our new friends. And so anything in the middle there. So I had a lot
Well,
of fun doing that.
I'm going to shift. I have other stuff written down,
Okay.
but I want to get to what you just did there, the radio voice,
Sure, sure.
because you do a bit that I just love about you coming home to the wife.
Yeah.
Can you do a little of that for the folks?
Oh,
Do you
of
mind doing a little of
course.
that?
Yeah. So this is just how my voice comes out. I have a radio voice. I worked on the radio for a long time, over a decade,
Right.
and my wife's totally used to it. I'll get home tonight. I'll walk in the door. Hi, honey. It's 5 minutes after the hour. 65 degrees outside. Light to moderate traffic on the surface streets, and I'm home. Up next, we've got dinner, yoga pants, and an episode of Grey's Anatomy on Netflix. And stick around, I'll be whispering all your favorite sweet nothings all night long. And the request lines are open. And that's an opener that I use most of the
I,
time.
I love it, and I'm going to get into something about that because
Sure.
we've never met. For people that are just tuning
But
in,
true.
you and I just met, 5 minutes ago, and I have a little trick up my sleeve about that. But I also heard at one point you got fired from a radio station. Do you know
Yeah,
about
for
that? What
sure.
happened there?
Yeah, I got fired from a radio station when I came out of a Def Leppard song and said, now there's a band I'd give my left arm to be in. Now, the thing is, every time I do that at a club or a senior home or a veterans home, any kind of place, open mic, anything, there's always one group who's like, oh, they're laughing and so on.
Right?
And then there's another group who have no clue
No
what I'm
idea.
talking about. And that gives me a great moment for a little crowd interaction. I'm like, the Def Leppard fans are over here. Now, for everybody else, Def Leppard was a band, and their drummer was in a terrible car accident, and he lost his
Yeah.
left arm. But he could still drum, right? Which is amazing. And there is nobody I would rather sit next to on an airplane because you get that whole armrest to yourself.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I'm going to
Yeah.
start with first off. This will tell you how old I am. I
Yeah.
saw Def Leppard when the guy had both arms.
There you go. Yeah, for sure.
I did. I
Yeah,
swear to you.
I was
Ted
on the
Nugent,
radio
Ted
when
Nugent,
he had both arms.
Ted Nugent, Def Leppard, and the Scorpions in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And Def Leppard was probably the best. Well, I have pictures with the Scorpions, and they were pretty good.
Sure.
But I wasn't a Nugent fan, but
Yeah.
I went to see Def Leppard and the Scorpions, and they were really good.
I'll bet.
Oh yeah, well, and he did have two arms at that point.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't always have that. Yeah. I worked in the radio over the time when he had two arms, then he lost his arm, and then he recorded an album without the other arm.
That band, if you don't, they had a lot of bad luck. I think one of the guitar players died. They had bad luck with that band.
You would think that they would have said, maybe we should shut this thing down. No.
Or
No.
get transportation. But
Yeah.
let
Just
me
pour some sugar on it. It'll be fine.
pour some sugar. Oh boy, there we go.
What?
Kids. Well, I got to tell you because, and I doubt you know him, but I worked in the music business my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to radio stations and beg the program director, beg to play Dave Matthews or ZZ Top or whoever I was working.
Yeah.
And one of the guys I met was a guy named Dr. Dave Ferguson. And Dr. Dave was the voice of like 30 or 40 radio stations. I think he still is the voice of a lot of radio stations. And he's just like, hey, Scotty, it's the doctor.
Sure.
And it used to drive me crazy. I think that's why I loved the bit about your wife, because he'd call me, hey, Scotty, it's the doctor. I'd be like, would you stop with the damn radio voice? Jesus, God, I know you don't talk like, hey, Scotty, it's the doctor.
But as soon as you put a microphone in front of us, that's what happens. It just comes out like that.
It was funny because we'd go out drinking
Yeah.
And he was fine, but then every now and again, hey Scotty, hey, you just drop down an octave or whatever it is.
Sure.
Let me ask you, when did you first start doing comedy?
Um, when I turned 50,
Okay.
my wife gave me Steve Martin's masterclass on comedy as a
Okay.
birthday present. And
Wow.
I went through it. I got about halfway through it and I talked to her. I said, I can do this. Now, the confidence of saying I can do this from listening to half of a Steve Martin masterclass is that as a kid, I had this. Steve Martin was the first album I ever
Right.
bought with my own money. And I grew up on Bill Cosby, don't tell
Yeah.
anybody. And Robin Williams and Eddie Murphy and on like that.
Mine,
And when I
mine
got
was
in,
George Carlin, Toledo
sure,
Window Box on eight
for
track.
sure.
On
Yeah,
eight
there you go.
track.
Yeah. And on as I worked on the radio, there was one place that I worked near Ann Arbor, Michigan,
Okay.
and it was a country radio station, but I was, local radio personality, and
Sure.
a local comedy club would bring me in to host sometimes.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily do material. I'm sure I was stealing jokes, but I
Yeah.
was just talking to people and that kind of thing. And so I
Right.
really got my feet wet then. And when you're on the radio, you're kind of expected to be funny, and so
Yeah.
there's some degree of that as well. But it wasn't until I was 50 that I actually did my first open mic, and then once I got that taste and knew, okay, that didn't work well at all. What if I write these jokes differently, and did my first like a little spot at a club. It was during Gilda's Laugh Fest here in Grand
Okay.
Rapids. They have a first timer showcase. The
Okay.
idea of, like, if you've never done comedy before, you've hardly ever done it, sign up. So I did that, and I just loved it so much.
Okay.
And I had rewritten. I just threw out that first open mic, threw that out completely,
Okay.
rewrote a lot of stuff. I still did some voice stuff, but it was real short sets. It
Okay.
felt so natural. I'd never been in a happier place. So
Okay.
that was the clincher to make sure that I just kept doing that. And open mics led to getting a Christmas party here and a corporate show there, and building more material, going through the comedy Bible, and really learning how to craft stuff, the different 13 different comedy strategies, and get that toolbox built up. I took some classes online when we were all locked down, and kept growing that. And so I'm going to be 57 in a couple of weeks. So 7 years ish
Okay. Well,
is
boy,
how long
you,
I've been
you
doing
went over because I normally ask, was there a catalyst?
it.
And I've heard from, well, I was always a damn fool to, like me, I was class clown.
Yeah.
To hear it was, Steve Martin masterclass that got you started. 7 years later, um, and this is a two-parter. Do you
Sure.
have a favorite show? And then, of course, the least favorite show. And I like the
Yeah.
second one better because
Yeah.
that's where the
Right.
meat is.
Yeah. Right.
Your favorite show first.
Wow.
Favorite show you've done.
I think I did the Laugh Factory in Chicago a couple of years ago.
All
The
right.
uh, it's a show called the Early Bird Special. It's a 55 and
Yeah, I
over
had I had
thing.
that guy on. I can't, what's
Yeah,
his name?
Steven.
Yeah, Steven Springer.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Steve is a
But
great guy.
he uh he put me last. And when you got nine people on a show, you're not, closing. You're just last. And so I did it, and the audience just hadn't seemed to really grab hold of each comic as they came up.
And
And after each one, I finally had my turn. I got up there and I just killed it.
yeah,
That was one of the best experiences.
okay.
It was so fun. I've There's a video on my website where you can see
Yeah,
that.
I'm gonna put because I have your YouTube channel.
Sure, sure.
Obviously, you have Facebook. Do you have I
Yeah.
think Instagram. I think I got you
You bet.
too.
Yeah, it's all
Do
Brian A. Comedian.
Do you do TikTok, Brian?
I do. Yeah, same. Yeah, my
Okay.
website is brianacomedian.com
Yeah. Now
and
I'm
then
going to put
all
all the
all the
links. I'm going to
socials.
put when this airs, all the
Yeah,
links. Everything's going to be there so people can find you.
that's great. I appreciate it.
You know.
The worst one, because
Yeah.
I know that's
Yeah.
the one
Here
you
we
really
go.
care
Here
about.
we go.
Uh, um, I'm going to give you two worst ones.
I love it. I love it.
One of the worst ones was an early, um, was a corporate show for a client where they hired three feature acts, and got there, and there was one guy who he's an entertainer. He was essentially wearing a tuxedo. He looked like he belonged. Like his name is Don, but it should have been the Don. You know, he just like this
Okay.
Italian mafia entertainer. He's terrific. And then there was another guy who's he starts his show in Spanish, really fast Spanish, but it's
Yeah.
in front of an entirely English speaking crowd. Hilarious, really high energy. And me, I am not high energy. I am, if anything, low energy, just, really just milking those jokes out there. They should have had me go first, then Dom, and then this high energy younger
Right.
guy.
Instead,
But instead, they had me follow a high energy guy, and I'm there, and the audience is all like, "Woo!" And I'm like, so what's the deal with, yeah, and just absolutely bombed. And it's my material's good. I trust the material, and I did it at a decent pace and did it, and I got to the, that minimum time. Good night, everybody, and left,
take it easy.
and like nobody, you stand at the exit, you say hello, you're trying to sell merch, nobody could look me in the eyes. It was just awful. um
Okay.
that was terrible. But I just did the World Series of Comedy, and it was 7-minute sets, short and tight. I had it down. Had been working on some new aspects of it,
Okay.
and I got to the end, and I had seen the light that it was time to wrap up, and I had gotten a long laugh break, a long applause break, and
Right.
it threw me off by, and I've gone back through the video, 11 seconds. And then, and I just couldn't adjust in my head, and they gave me the hook. Disqualified me from the competition that day and so on. And
Wow.
I felt so bad that the host had to come get me. But I'd never run the light in my life, and it's still just. I actually looked at it this morning. I'm like, oh, I just can't even stand to watch this thing. Um, but but that idea of running the light, because I've told people, be like, oh, make sure you know your time, make sure you know where you are, pay attention to the light. You see the light, it's time to go. Um, and I also have I have a watch where I have a little buzz that goes off that tells me,
You can feel
and
it. Yeah.
and I could feel it on my wrist, so I know.
Yeah.
And I just blew it, and that's all on me. It has nothing to do with the competition, nothing to do with how they're running it
I'm
or
just
anything.
amazed. I'm amazed, Brian, that you got what you're saying. You went over by 11 seconds.
Um, uh, so they turn the light off at 7 minutes. You're done, and and then the guy waited like as long as he thought he could, giving me a little extra time. He was very
And you,
gracious about it, and I was just trying to wrap up, and I yeah, it just that 11 seconds had
well,
thrown me enough.
I think you should do it now. I think you should do that joke that you were trying to squeeze in.
Yeah, the idea that it's all voices, and
Well,
if you
if you don't mind,
yeah,
Brian,
no, no,
do some stuff for me. I would love it.
yeah, I I love the idea of taking, like, what if we took the next James Bond movie,
Right.
and instead of trying to recast it as somebody and trying to find the right person, male, female, black, white, whatever we do, let's
Right.
just make them animated,
Right.
and we can have the auditions for the animated James Bond, so that hello, my name is Hank Hill, and I sell propane and propane accessories. Uh, my name is Bond, James Bond. That boy's crazy. This is Peter Griffin. Yeah. My name is Bond, James Bond. Oh, yes, the fat man. He'd make a perfect 007. In fact, he's so fat, he'd make double 007. Ha! What'd you say, Brian? Oh, yeah, that was pretty good. Oh, Scoob, I don't think I can bring the gravitas that Sean Connery brought to the role. Oh, no. Actually, I was thinking perhaps I could audition. See, everybody can do a Sean Connery. Everybody can. The thing is, when you start doing voices, you start realizing that, you can do, there's the cartoon voices. And then, hi ho, is this the place where we go to audition? No, no, no. This is the cartoon auditions. You want the Muppet auditions next door. Oh, that's unbearable. And you start doing those voices, and the next thing you know, one voice really leads to another. So if you can do Kermit the Frog, oh, thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you just
Right.
drop your pitch a little bit. Oh, my wife is really going to be disappointed in me.
That's amazing, Brian.
And then with Fozzie Bear, you that was Ray Romano. That was
Yeah.
Kermit becomes Ray Romano, and then
Yeah.
Fozzie Bear. You just make him a little bit louder and a lot more confident, and you got John Mulaney. Hey, have you seen the latest James Bond movie? There's a scene where he sleeps right through an earthquake. He's shaken, not stirred.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. You'll have to pardon me.
You're
I told you
fine.
I worked in the music business. I'd done my share of drinking and drugs, and it's taken its toll.
Oh, sure.
But as you were doing, and I'm going to be 62 in August. Not that I'm making a batch of excuses, but as you were doing that, it reminded me, and I forgot all about it. That's how good you are. I saw Mel Blanc,
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
yeah, at York College here in York, and he
Oh, yeah.
performed. And I want to tell you, that was like what you were doing there. You were fantastic, Brian.
Oh, thank you. That's
I
very
mean it.
kind.
Those, I tell you what, that I think that would kill everywhere. That bit,
Um,
like, now again, it's probably harder. There you've got a great mic and a studio and everything set up
yeah.
where you're in some little crappy club with people talking and stuff. It'd probably be wasted. But
The
I mean, I
the
don't
weird,
know. But
yeah.
man, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
It reminded me of Mel Blanc because Mel Blanc standing up there. And for people that don't know, do you want to tell people who Mel Blanc is? You want to tell?
Yeah, yeah, he was the voice of all the Looney Tunes characters, everybody from Bugs Bunny to Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, and so on. Sylvester the Cat, and he could just switch from one to the
Yeah,
other. So when I first started learning to do voices, that was the thing that I worked on is, well, how quickly can I switch? So when I'm in that Family Guy section, being able to switch
yeah.
from Peter to Stewie to Brian,
You
all
nailed all
quickly.
three of those. They were
Yeah.
great. But
It
you just
helps that Seth MacFarlane and I have similar voices, so it's
yeah.
very easy for me to slip into any of his characters.
Well, and you described it perfectly. When I saw Mel Blanc, you imagine I'm sitting in the crowd, he's up on stage, and all of a sudden he's, Daffy Duck, and then he's, Bugs Bunny, and then he's Elmer Fudd. He's just doing, or whoever,
Yeah.
I'm maybe messing it up, but he just did one voice after another, and he just standing there. It's like, how did he just turn into that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And the
wild.
thing that it I haven't figured out if it's actually working on stage yet is that if you go back and watch this video, and I'm sure you will,
Oh,
and
well,
as people are
we
watching
hope a
it,
lot of people do, bud.
right? As you watch it, go back and watch Steve, watch Scott's face there. Um, as I'm doing those voices, he's not laughing. He's staring, mouth
Yeah,
open.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like I had somebody tell me once for a bit I was doing. It was like, it's too good. It's
Yeah,
not funny.
it is impeccable.
It's
I'm not.
so I got to do voices and do them wrong then.
No, no, no. And you're right, though. I mean, yeah, I didn't give that a thought, but well, I don't think a lot. But
Yeah,
that's a great point, though. But let's shift gears a little bit, just because
sure.
I want to cover everything that you have, and we don't know how much time we have. But you do also, which I have a friend, kind of like my radio buddy, which I
Yeah,
know a lot of radio guys, and all. Hey, Scotty, it's the doctor.
it's the doctor.
Yeah. I also have a guy that does voiceover work,
Hmm.
which I saw you do audiobooks and stuff. That's a whole nother aspect of what you do, right?
Yeah. I've recorded two audiobooks. And I really need people. You can look for them on Audible, on Amazon and so on. You just look for my name, Brian Atkinson, as the narrator, and there's two of them. One of them I did 41 voices, and the other one it's just one voice through the whole thing. But
Okay.
I really need people to buy those, listen to them, because after those two books, I have made almost $100. Um,
I knew, I knew
and
it. I knew it.
and that's absolutely
I knew
true.
you were going to go there. I knew
It's
you were going to go there.
it's just a matter of like, as much as I had fun doing 41 different voices for a book,
Yeah.
um, there was just, it was all like, well, you get a piece of the sale. And
Yeah.
when people are spending, $11 on an audiobook, and you get a piece of that and a little piece of this and a little piece of that, and Amazon takes most of it and so on. Yeah, you make $3 a copy, and that's great if you sell 100,000.
Yeah.
But that's not what these books do.
My,
They
my
sold
friend, my friend
tens and
lost my
twenties.
audiobook.
Oh,
Now I'm never going to hear the end of it.
oh man.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. The other audiobook that it was all like a Mickey Spillane film noir style detective kind of thing.
Okay.
And the guy who wrote it, he approached me, "Hey, would you record this audiobook?" I kind of went through it. It looked like it would be fun, but it had so many goofy uh little turns of phrases that were just terrible metaphors, because or similes, I guess,
Yeah.
technically, because in those Mickey Spillane style Humphrey Bogart movies, it was always, and I walked into the room like a man looking for a diamond in the rough, that kind of.
Right.
Yeah, so it's that voice, um but and then they melted like fire on ice cream, and his his similes were so funny to me. I'm like, all right, I don't know if these are on
Good.
purpose
Good.
funny or they're accidentally funny. I like to think they're accidentally funny because that makes them funnier to me.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what,
Yeah.
I could just, and I'm simple that way. Just have you around, just do the do some voices, do some voices. And that's really cool.
Yeah, the unfortunate side is a lot of voices that I learned how to do early on are
Yeah.
actors and so on who are
Yeah.
long dead.
They're dead. Yeah, I was just gonna
And
say.
yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, we all know who James Mason is, right? You remember James
I
Mason?
do.
Yeah, well, nobody else does. It's just us.
Yeah. No, I do Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
Jesus,
you,
there, read it there.
Tina.
Listen there.
Yeah. Yep.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but you are one dumb Pollock.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't do. I used to do Foghorn Leghorn. I do some, but you're right. I
Yeah.
think I never even thought about that as far as you up on stage. So you're doing more just straight, one-liners, clean stuff like that.
It's not a lot of one-liner stuff like the radio bit that we
Yeah,
went
that's a
through
great bit.
earlier. It's both story and,
Okay,
setup, punch, tag, tag, tag. Um, I
go
do
ahead. Go
quite a
ahead
bit
and
of
go ahead if you want. Do another because we got enough time.
sure.
Do another bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. Inside that part where I talk about growing up and using my voice, I kind of always wanted to be a performer. When I was a little kid,
Right.
I took ventriloquism lessons.
Okay.
And now, don't worry, I don't have a dummy hiding away somewhere. That it freaked me out eventually.
Yeah.
But I was really good at the voice part as a little kid, but terrible at the puppetry part. So I just told everybody the dummy was paralyzed. So that's a one-liner and dark. So,
Right. Yeah.
but the real reason that I don't do it anymore is this voice does not work with little kids' birthday parties. Hello,
Yeah.
hello, children. Would you like to be my friend? Kids are all running away. Stranger danger!
So,
And the moms are giving me their phone number, and that is not okay. Yeah, but my voice changed when I was a kid. I didn't go through the same like squawking and stuff that a lot of kids did. It
right.
changed kind of all of a sudden, right in the middle of an audition for a school musical. I started the audition up here and I finished it way down here. For the rest of the year, I could call the school. Hello, this is Mr. Atkinson. Hey, Scotty, it's the doctor.
Hey, Scotty, it's the
Bri-
doctor.
and Brian won't be at school today. Um, yeah, so it's that creating. the theater of the mind, and that comes from my radio time as well, is that
Yeah.
there's some one-liners in there, but it's storytelling, and
Yeah. Well,
and
you're
it,
fantastic, brother. You
thank
are
you. That's very
fantastic.
kind. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
I, and I don't even know that I should ask this, but I wrote it
Oh,
down,
go ahead.
and
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. Let's just go on record.
Okay, bring it.
What kind of idiot are you? Why is there more than one kind?
Yeah, they sure are. Yeah.
Uh,
It's the
were
good
you
kind.
really adopted twice?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
That's another
And that
storytelling.
just shows what a sick idiot I
Yeah.
am. I bring it up.
Yeah.
Brian, what happened to the first parents? They kicked
Yeah,
your
right.
ass out.
Yeah, they called it good. Thing about being adopted twice, the first one just didn't take.
Yeah.
They being adopted twice, being returned is like your mom sent dinner back to the kitchen at a restaurant because it was too spicy. You know, I'd love to say that I'm the Kung Pao chicken of adoption, but my family is so white they think tap water is spicy. Oh, you can really taste the
Oh
fluoride.
my God.
And but then later on in life, it was really great. I got reunited with my biological family, and my
Okay.
biological mother adopted me back. And
Oh, okay.
so I have this, double adoption story, but then,
Okay.
growing
Wow.
up messed me up. And, but then there's this great healing process that happens later. So in my 30s, I got reunited with her. In my 40s, she adopted me back. And so here I am in my 50s, and I have the adoption paperwork is where she lives, which is in Mississippi. And the weird thing is that they use the paperwork date as my new birth date. So I have a Mississippi birth certificate that says I'm 13 years old.
Yeah. I just saw that this year during leap year. Did you see that? That they only, because the March or February 29th only
Yeah,
happens every 4 years. So he'd have,
yeah,
and they're like 10.
yeah, yeah.
They can't
Just
go drink until they're
yeah, you got it.
80.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who are Gilbert and Sullivan fans right now, you're thinking about Pirates of Penzance and Frederick's character, who was born on Leap Day, and so yeah, he's not actually 21. He's a little boy of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. That
That's
is
fun stuff.
crazy. Well, my friend, unless we want to make sure we cover everything. I
Sure.
actually thought I was doing you a solid by bringing up the audio books because I think that like my friend Tony Fergale, he does commercials and stuff.
Yeah. And
You
I
know,
would love to do more of those. It's just a matter of you got to really chase them, and you got to
yeah,
spend it's like getting comedy gigs too. It's like,
yeah,
well, I'm spending my chase time trying to get booked for comedy,
okay,
and I would have to spend that same amount of time trying to get
yeah,
booked for
okay,
voiceovers. I occasionally get something that just comes my way. People know me, and
okay,
so
yeah,
on. And I'm happy to do it. And you can see this is my home recording studio here.
yeah,
And I can go places and record as well. It's
right.
just a matter of I'm not able to chase stuff down.
So
Um,
in other words, we're looking at stand-up comedy. That's what you want to do.
yeah. I've got a real good day job that pays the mortgage and takes
Okay.
care of me. But like at your age, my age, we can see retirement from here, whatever that
Oh,
looks
it's
like. You know,
I'm not over the hill, but I got a clear view of the top.
there you go. And so for me, it's as I think about, I want to get myself to the position of comedy where when retirement comes, whether that's at 59 and a half or 62 or 65,
Right.
that becomes my full-time job. That becomes the thing that I spend my time doing. It's already the thing that I love to do. And if it came sooner than that, I would jump on it, but it takes time. They
Right.
say you need 10 years, you need 40,000 hours, you need enough time
Just
to
keep
really
plugging
be
away.
to get
Well,
good.
look, my friend, we're going to run out of time, and
Okay.
I want it. We talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm praying. I'm praying. You promise me. Ryan Atkinson, your comedy minute. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, my favorite has got to be the part about my voice that the
Right.
way I worked in the radio and stuff. And we've talked about that a little bit as well.
Right.
But I was thinking about another comic, guy named
Okay.
Brad Wenzel, and it's such an obscure little thing that he did. I saw him live once, and every time I think about it, it cracks me up.
Okay.
That he likes to listen to whale song recordings,
Okay.
and he likes to listen to them to go to sleep. and he could just see the whales there. That's what you guys do with our podcast. And that lays me out every time. Um,
Okay.
but that's Brad. And so yeah, go find Brad Wenzel, follow him. He's terrific. But for me, the idea of I'm in state of Mississippi. I'm legally 13 years old, or as they say
Right.
in Mississippi, time to settle down. It's like I've I've got the I'm the age of a 13-year-old. I'm legally 13 years old in Mississippi, but I have
Right.
the body of a 56-year-old. Sorry,
Okay.
pedophiles.
Right.
Yeah. That whole part of my story and
Well,
I
you're an
it,
amazing guy, bud.
oh, thank
You're an
you.
amazing guy. Well,
Oh,
look, we're
thanks.
going to run out of time. So what I want to do is I want to stop the recording. But Brian, thank you so much for being here. And let's make a pact. If it's okay,
Sure.
I'll check back in with you in 6 months or so. We'll see how you're doing.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Between now and then, I'm going to be back at the Laugh Factory in Chicago on July 21.
Okay.
I'll be at Coral Gables in Saugatuck, Michigan, August 3, and headlining the Underground Laugh Lounge in Niles, Michigan, September 20. So
Okay.
it's some Midwest opportunities to come see me. Please follow me on the socials at Brian
Yeah.
A. Comedian.
I will
Uh,
do my part, my friend.
Thank
And
you,
we'll have you
Scott.
back on in a few months. We'll try and keep plugging you, getting you squared away. I love you. I think you're great.
Thank you, Scotty. You too.
Okay, hang tight for a second.